Meredith, we ready? Kevin, we ready? Meredith, we ready to go? Okay.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, just in case you're interested, if the question comes up this evening, I just got a text message from the city attorney. The city attorney is online and available for questions tonight.
Thank you. For all you all
Jana,
waiting,
are you online?
we're trying to determine if one of our other commissioners out of town is online.
Jana, are you online?
Yes, I got on.
Thank you.
Hi, Jana.
Hi.
Call this meeting to order. This is the June 28th, Tuesday night, regular meeting of the Roswell Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Let's see here. Welcome everybody, and let everybody know we've got quite a few people out here. We do have a policy. You are allowed to speak on your case or any other items, public hearing items or whatever. We would ask you to limit it to 3 minutes and also not be redundant of what your next door neighbor might have just said. You don't need to get up and repeat that. You can just get up and say, I agree with Jesse, something like that. So if you would please stick to that, we would appreciate it. Roll call vote, please, Meredith.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Present.
Commissioner Aguilar.
Here.
Commissioner Lassard.
Here.
Commissioner McCornack.
Here.
Commissioner Henderson.
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez is not here. And Chair Story.
Here.
We have 6 of the members present.
Thank you. Now we're going to have a swearing in of the members of the audience. If you in the audience, please stand up and raise your right hand, please. Probably.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under penalty of perjury? The answer is I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
The reason only one of us stood up here because Commissioner McDaniel has a case on his own involved later on. In case you were wondering why he stood up, none of us did. Next on the item we have on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda from the June 28th, 2022 meeting. Has anybody want to make any changes or have any comments on the agenda for tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the agenda for our June 28th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to approve tonight's agenda, June 28, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same
Aye.
sign. That one chiming in was Jana online. All that motion is approved. For tonight's agenda, next item is the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting, which is the May 24th, 2022 meeting. If anybody has any comments or questions or concerns on that, bring them up. If not, I would accept a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by we have a motion by Jesse and a second by James to approve the minutes from the May 24th, 2022 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same
Aye.
sign. That carries. Now we move into the public hearing items. There again, people, we have 11 items on tonight's case, and you are, after your case is heard or discussed or whatever, you are more than welcome to leave. You don't have to feel like you have to stay and through all the cases. And to tell you right now, so we don't have to go it over again each case, if in case your case is either approved or not approved, and you're on either wanting for it or not, but want to appeal it, you have that right to appeal to the city clerk by, I believe, Thursday at noon. And we can, if there is something that happened tonight, we could definitely clarify that. Right now, we have case number 22-016, which is the CAN, which CAN stands for, now maybe Kevin will tell us. We have a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and the land use and zoning considerations, please.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Jesse and a second by Saul to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations for case 22-016. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now we have, Kevin, would you like to present case number 22-016, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We're going to start the night with our only cannabis item of the evening, which is a change from the last few meetings. We've only got one tonight. This is for 325 South Main Street and 323 South Main Street, both lots, one a parking lot and one the building. This is planning and zoning case 22-016. This is a request for a variance, a zone change to CCAN and a conditional use permit to operate as an adult use recreational medical retail cannabis establishment. I will go into detail in just a few minutes on why the variance is required. I'm going to remind you that much like the other cases that we have reviewed, each cannabis case that comes before you up to this point has had some minor little difference that may affect your thinking on the outcome. So we'll go into a little more detail on that. This particular location is within the C2 zone and is surrounded by all of C2. You can see there from the map, it is just south of the business district, the Main Street Business District in the C2 zone, surrounded by C2 properties. Okay. The proposed cannabis establishment, this is the first ground up. In other words, this is the first one that has been built from the ground up. Many of the other cases were conversions. They were existing buildings, existing facilities. This is the first time we've had one come forward that is starting essentially from scratch. Okay. Pure Life, the name of the company, they were issued a vertically integrated cannabis establishment license on January 27th of 2022. We point that out again to remind everyone that this is well after the city of Roswell had our basic cannabis ordinance in place. Pure Life has requested a variance to the distance separation requirements. This is something we've never had to deal with before, but we're anticipating it may become a more common occurrence. The section 2765 requires a minimum distance of at least 1/4 mile, 1,320 feet. That distance separation was chosen because we didn't want a concentration of cannabis establishments in any one area of the city. Much like if you've been up to Ruidoso recently and gone to Midtown, you'll see about every half a block there's a cannabis establishment in Midtown Ruidoso right now. But we decided on 1,320 feet was a reasonable measure. Oso Cannabis, when you approved last month, is located approximately 733 feet. So we've got about a 500-foot distance in there that this fails to meet the separation requirements. 323 and 325, they are located in the C2 district. Pursuant to Chapter 27, they must be located in the city's commercial cannabis district. Because this is currently a C2, it does qualify for the floating zone of CCAN. Okay. Again, the conditional use permit, you've seen this many times, the type of things we asked for. They did provide immediately their vice retailer license, but everything after this, okay, is in the plan set form. They have not done their final construction. They have yet to receive their certificate of occupancy, and again, they have not commenced operations. So they do have a business license registration, their background information and their operational plan. They do have an odor mitigation plan, security, exterior lighting. The security plan was reviewed by the Roswell Police Department and found to be satisfactory. The security measures will be inspected by the building department at the time they are placed into the building. Interior and exterior lighting, siding, parking plan, signage, they've all been turned in. As of today's date, though, Planning and Zoning Office has received one written protest letter, and this protest letter did cause enough concern that we actually ran it by the city attorney, which is why Parker is online tonight. The letter was received from the Chavez County, I can't remember which division it was. The Public Services, came out of the Public Services Department. It's from Mac Rogers, the Public Services Director of the of Chavez County. He is concerned about the distance between an existing Head Start preschool that is federally funded. And according to federal regulations, there must be a minimum 1,000-foot separation between any, that distance, the 1,000 foot, is a drug-free zone that is required by federal law. The state of New Mexico, when they passed the Cannabis Regulation Act, took cannabis off of the schedule of regulated drugs and made it, and therefore eliminated this requirement, okay, at least at the state level. Unfortunately, all of our Head Start programs are federally funded, and the federal government has yet to release any obligation relative to the requirement for the 1,000-foot distance. So I have a statement here that we put together based upon our conference that we had with the city attorney. And Parker, if I get anything wrong, please chime in. Okay. But on May 17th, the Community Development Department did receive a protest letter in response to zoning case 22-016 CAN from the Chavez County Public Services Department. Protest letter stated that cannabis establishment at 325 and 323 South Main would be in violation of the New Mexico Controlled Substance Act or the Federal Controlled Substance Acts of 1970. Furthermore, the protest letter stated that the proximity of this proposed facility to the Roswell Head Start program may jeopardize their annual federal funding. And the response we got back from city attorney: as a matter of federal law, the possession, cultivation, manufacture, processing, distribution, retail sales, and on-site consumption and specialized events for the consumption of adult use cannabis remains illegal, again, as a matter of federal law. Pursuant to federal law, any violations of the aforementioned crimes result in strict convictions in comparison to New Mexico state law. However, according to the information received from the City of Roswell City Attorney, cannabis has been removed from the New Mexico Controlled Substance Act and therefore is no longer considered a controlled substance pursuant to New Mexico state law. Consequently, cannabis is not included or covered within the definition of a drug-free school zone under the state of New Mexico law. In general, many federal grants require that grant recipients establish, maintain, and enforce policies relating to drug-free workplaces and campuses. City staff does not have direct knowledge of the particular grant assurances related to the federal Head Start program. Therefore, city staff are not in a position, if any, to speculate on the impact that the proposed cannabis retail establishment would have on such funding. That was a long-winded way of saying we just don't know whether or not federal funding will potentially be jeopardized.
So you mentioned that New Mexico has taken off cannabis as a controlled substance.
At the state level, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Based upon the land use and zoning considerations and the findings of fact, the surrounding land uses, of course, we've recommended that the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a public hearing and then make a motion to recommend to the City Council, and this, you got three choices, like we had last month, for approval of the project, for denial of the project, or no recommendation whatsoever. Okay? But we need to move it forward to the City Council. They still have final determination in the matter. Zoning case 22016, which does include a variance, a zone change to CCAN, and a conditional use permit with the conditions of approval specified in Exhibit F, which you have in your packet. And with that, we stand for questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions of Kevin? We have one more from Steve.
It's my understanding that there's no business or any operation at that site right now. They haven't started their business.
Or I'm sorry, is your microphone on?
Are they in operation at
Okay.
that?
They are not in operation at this site. Again, this is not a conversion of an existing facility. They are not an existing non-conforming use. This is a brand-new request for a brand-new facility, and they fall under all the regulations of the city.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kevin. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to, or online, wishing to speak in favor of case 22-016? Please come forward. State your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Indy White. My address is 9800 Montgomery Boulevard Northeast, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87111. May I begin? Okay, great. Chairman, commissioners, and the public, I appreciate and thank you for allowing us to kind of prove our case here at this point. My name is Indy White. I'm one of the owners of Pure Life. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. Born and raised here in New Mexico. I went to UNM for undergrad. I was in the Air Force for 6 years where I worked on ejection seats on the F-16. I'm also a practicing attorney. I went to law school in St. Louis and came back to New Mexico to start Pure Life around 7 years ago. Pure Life was started 7 years ago. Actually, one of my partners at the time was a Roswell native by the name of Jason Bowles. The Bowles Law Firm is also representing Pure Life this evening. Currently, we have 12 retail locations. Again, we've been in operation for 7 years. Primarily, this was a medical cannabis operation, obviously, until April. Recreational sales weren't allowed. Currently, we have 12 retail locations, 4 cultivation locations, a kitchen, a laboratory. We currently employ over 250 employees in New Mexico. In the last 7 years, we have not received a single fine or penalty, whether from the Department of Health or the new Cannabis Control Division, which is now regulated by RLD, the Regulatory and Licensing Division. In Roswell, we have had this building for several months. We've spent over $50,000 in rent on this building, over $100,000 in tenant improvements, nothing structural, obviously, where we would need permits for those, and that also includes electronics and some of our equipment that we have purchased in anticipation of opening up at this location. We're looking to hire at minimum of 12 people to start. They start with a very competitive wage, and every single employee has health, dental, vision. We even offer pet insurance, and we do a matched 401k. We're very happy that we can offer such benefits to our employees. We have an armed guard on site at all times. That's at all 12 locations currently, and that will be the same here in Roswell, New Mexico. And every single one of our employees is also receiving a background check. As far as the issue pertaining to the Head Start program, I would like to mention that pretty much every single public school has some form of federal funding, but I would like to mention Head Start in general. There are 4 locations within New Mexico where a Head Start program is in with 1,000 feet of an operating dispensary, including a recreational dispensary. I have copies here. There's one in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's currently 670 feet away. It's been in operation for 4 years. There's one in Clovis, New Mexico, that's 740 feet. It's been in operation for 3 years. Los Lunas, New Mexico, a Head Start program is 720 feet away from an operating dispensary, again, recreational. It's been operational for a year. And then in Portales, New Mexico, a local company here by the name of Pecos Valley Pharmaceuticals in Portales is only 470 feet away from a Head Start program. So in no instances has anyone talked about losing federal funding for these Head Start programs. Again, almost every single public school receives some sort of federal funding. New Mexico has not received any situation where any public school Head Start program daycare has lost any sort of grant funding or federal funding because of the sheer distance to a dispensary. So it's not a completely novel situation within the state. And if there's 4 in the state of New Mexico, I could only imagine how many there are in the entire United States. So I respect Chavez's County position on that particular instance. I don't agree with it personally, and there's definitely instances where these businesses have been operating perfectly fine for several years without incident. For that reason, I do believe, again, with our history, operating for 7 years, again, no fines, no penalties. I'm really looking forward to hiring, really great workers from the city of Roswell. I want to give them good benefits. I'm really looking forward to opening this business. I think we've met all of the requirements, and I do ask that our variance be approved. And again, I really appreciate your time, Chairman, Commissioners, and I can stand for any questions if you have any.
Any questions of the applicant?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Let it be known that Commissioner Gutierrez has entered the meeting. He is up here at the dais now. I got here about 6:18. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor of case 22-016? Anybody else in favor? Last chance. Anybody online? Jana, you have any
Yes.
questions?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
No.
Yes, we can. Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my name is Jason Bowles. My address is in Albuquerque at 4811 Hardware Drive Northeast. And it's at my law firm, Albuquerque 87109, and it's the Bowles Law Firm.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just briefly, I do agree with what Indy White said. I have been involved with Pure Life for 7 years. I do think they're a very good business, very good with employees, very good with the workers. And I think they'd be a credit to the city of Roswell, where I grew up and where I went to high school at Goddard. I do want to say that I really appreciate the legal presentation made earlier by Kevin, the city attorney. I think there was some really good concerns raised. I do know from being a federal prosecutor, being involved with the DEA, being involved in those areas, I'm not aware of any federal prosecution over a situation like this where the state has removed the cannabis from the controlled substances list. So it is legal, as the city attorney noted, in the state of New Mexico. So it is not an illegal drug sale in the state of New Mexico to have a retail establishment. Because of that, the federal government, I'm not aware of any situation of a Head Start losing funding or prosecution. And I just wanted to reiterate that from my background.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Bowles? Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this case? Being none, is there anyone wishing to speak against this case? Have anybody from Chaves County, Mr. Rogers, or anybody online or from Chaves County that had the protest letter? Okay, anybody, last chance, anybody wishing to speak against this case?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, is there anyone here from Head Start by chance? I'm surprised that they, if it was an issue, that we wouldn't have received a letter from Head Start.
Well, if the federal government's going to go after Head Start because we approved a cannabis on Main Street or something, they've got a lot more things they need to be doing, in my opinion. But anyway, that's my opinion. Okay, anybody else? Do we have any other questions of staff or anybody from the commission? Saul?
Question, staff, on the last few cannabis cases, there was no Sunday sales. Is this one any different?
During the last city council meeting, there was a motion made and it passed to a blanket statement to allow Sunday sales for all cannabis establishments during the time frame from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, of course, that doesn't mean they have to sell during that time frame, but it is an allowable period of time.
I have one question, Kevin. When we first started this, weren't we trying to restrict everything off of Main Street and off of Second Streets or something in through there, or?
As if you read our cannabis ordinance, what we were trying to do was restrict it from the downtown business district. That's where the C3 zone was originally come into play. But up to this point, of course, we're up against a rock and a hard place with respect to the CRA in that we cannot force anyone to shut down. This one and the one you approved last month for Brian's Green Care last month. Now, Brian's Green Care was an existing establishment, but they were converting from a CBD facility to a cannabis facility. Okay? This is the first one that we've had from the ground up. It is in the C2. It is not in the downtown business district. It is not in the C4 West End business district along 2nd Street and any of the other areas. So from a pure zoning perspective, this is located properly.
Okay,
The only problem with its location right now, and that's the reason for the variance, is the distance, the separation of distance between them and Oso Cannabis, which is up on Walnut, in the downtown business district. And then, of course, the concerns over Head Start.
okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have a quick question. The quarter mile zone, was that something established by Roswell City Council? Is that where that came from?
I'm sorry, the quarter mile zone is,
The 120 foot. Yeah, we're saying we need a variance in this case because of the distance to that other one. That distance requirement, did that come from City Council?
the distance requirement is codified. It is in our code. Okay? And it was put there intentionally to limit the total number of cannabis establishments gathered in any particular area. This one just happens to run up against that particular segment because we had an existing non-conforming use that last Oso Cannabis, which if they were a brand new facility wouldn't be allowed to be located where they're at. So again, we're working out all the kinks, I guess, with our ordinance between the new facilities coming in and the existing facilities. But at this point in time, according to the code, there is supposed to be a 1/4 mile separation distance. There's only 740 feet, 750 feet, something to that effect, between Oso Cannabis and Pure Life.
And that's what the variance part of this case is.
This is for, yes, it's for that separation distance, a reduction in the separation distance.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody want to try to take on a motion here that would be to either, approve, deny, or no recommendation to city council on the variance, the zone change, and the conditional use permit. And I'm assuming that if we approved or like 2 out of the 3 or whatever, we would separate them out. If not, then did somebody take a chance on a motion here?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
based on the land use and zoning considerations, finding of fact surrounding land uses and regulations established in the zoning ordinance, subdivision code, and chapter 27 of the municipal code, I move that we approve case number 22-016 can.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to recommend approval to the city council of case number 22-016. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, Jana. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. As to what? Yeah, and that what Jesse is saying is just to let you guys know, final say on this is at city council meeting at their next meeting. So what we do is just our recommendation. Meredith?
Who made the second?
Jesse. Anybody on that case, you're more than willing, or more than able, willing and able to leave if you would like to, or you certainly can stick around for the next 3 hours.
Thank you, sir.
Come on now.
No, you can't go. Typically, we don't have this many cases in one night. This has been kind of a first for us. That's why I'm just letting you guys know you're certainly more than welcome to get up and exit at whenever you want to. Excuse me. Next, we have case number 22-017, which is a zone change from the RV park to an R3 residential at 3104 South Main. Could I have a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts, please?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by Jesse and a second by Saul. If you guys don't actually Okay, so we have a motion by Jesse and a second by Saul to waive the reading of the finding of facts and the land use and zoning considerations with respect to case 22-017. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have on here, Spencer is going to present case number 22 dash, case 22017. Go ahead, Spencer.
Good evening, Chair Story and Commissioners. So for the second public hearing item of tonight's meeting, we have zoning case 22-017 ZOC, which is a zone change from RVP to R3 residential at the 3100 block of South Main Street, west of 3104 South Main Street. So here we have the table that shows adjacent land uses. We have undeveloped R2 and R3 land to the north. We have undeveloped C2 land to the south. We have R1 single-family residences to the west, and we have an I1 Coca-Cola facility to the east. So here you can see the property where the zone change is being proposed in relation to the city's zoning map and the county assessor map. So the two lots under consideration for this zone change tonight, Fruitland lots 3 and 4, are both owned by Mr. Freddie Nasrallah, and each are about 3.5 acres in size. You may remember back in 2020, these lots were rezoned from R2 and R3 to RVP, but to meet current market demand, the developer is proposing to reverse that zone change back to R3. So this proposed zone change would be consistent with zones to the northeast of the property, and I think also to the southwest. The developer has communicated with planning and zoning staff and also city engineering back in 2020, as well as recently, about what his proposed development plans are. So the developer has agreed to adhere to the zoning ordinance, to the subdivision code, and the attached preliminary development requirements, which is in your packets as Exhibit F, over the course of the approval process. So this, those requirements would entail the submittal of a drainage report, landscaping plan, privacy fencing at the west end of the property between the R1 neighborhood, and also a cul-de-sac at the west end of the property with curb and gutter. So also included in the preliminary development requirements is the requirement for a median cut on South Main Street in order to provide south and northbound access to and from the property. So the application design and the development fee will be incurred by the developer. This has been communicated to him, and he is more than willing to accept that. So a 60-foot multi-lane drive pad and 34-foot right-of-way measured from backup curb to backup curb will be utilized by the land to the south, which is conveniently also owned by Mr. Nasrallah, as well as utilized from the existing 20-foot alley south of the property and the existing Coca-Cola facility. We've received one inquiry regarding the zoning case. However, based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses and regulations in the zoning ordinance and subdivision code. Staff recommends approval of zoning case 22-017 ZOC with corresponding draft development requirements, Exhibit F, for a zone change from RVP to R3 residential at the 3100 block of South Main Street, west of 3104 South Main Street. And I stand for any questions.
I have one. Can you back up a couple of slides there to talking about the 20s and the 34s and the stuff? Can you explain that a little bit more for me? I'm not really sure I've never heard of a 34-foot property access.
Chairman,
That's just the
Mr. Chairman, let me explain that.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be the 60-foot right-of-way with the median opening. The reason it's going to be wider at the intersection, I want to have a right turn out, left turn out, and a right turn in. So you'll have 3 lanes at the entrance, and then it'll go back to a 2-lane as you get away from the entrance. Since that
And
is South Main.
this is in like the center of the property or something? I mean,
That would be the entrance going
Talking
into
about
South Main.
South
At the
Coco.
intersection is that to be named street and South Main.
where it's showing existing 20-foot alley, they're just going to expand.
There's an existing 20-foot alley. They'll have to give more right-of-way off of their property, make it 60-foot right-of-way. But at the entrance, we want additional lanes up front. Right turn out, left turn out, right turn in. So you'll have 3-lane there at the intersection of the to-be-named street and South Main.
Okay, so then they'll be going west towards the end of the property and terminate in a cul-de-sac, and then will there be private streets going north off of that to access the lots?
This is an apartment complex, so that would be the access road.
Okay,
So that would be to be named street. I do want the cul-de-sac with the fence behind the cul-de-sac, because I'm making sure that we don't have the mingling of the R3 traffic and the R1 traffic through the alley, and that way we'll have that separation.
okay. Any other questions, Steve? You look like you got one.
A little bit here, Louis. I'm still trying to figure out, is the 60-foot street on the south or on the north?
Be on the south of the 20-foot alley. The 20-foot alley will be getting, everything's going to be south of the facility that's there. And then the median opening will be for the apartments. There is no official median opening for Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola will have to become a right in, right out as it's officially supposed to be right now.
Okay.
Right now, this is where that.
Okay.
Keep the traffic flowing properly and not be congested.
Thank you. Yeah. I see, said the blind man.
Oh, that's where I was confused
I
too.
sketched it real quick.
Any
Well,
other
we don't
questions?
have plans. This is the zoning. So if we had a set of plans, but we have talked to Mr. Nasrallah, and he's aware of the expectations and wants to proceed.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, if I may, what we're trying to accomplish from now on into the future is to be a little more proactive with our development community. When we get a project like this that comes in that's just a zone change, we don't have an accompanying site plan or development plans yet. We want to give the client, the applicant, back as much information as possible. So what you're seeing up there right now is design considerations that need to be taken into account at the time of the final design. You all will not see the final design because the zone change to R3, okay, does not, if they come in under the threshold for the total number of units and everything else, that just goes through staff review, okay? But what we're trying to do, and you're going to start seeing this more and more, either with conditions of approval or with the special design requirements, other things, it's constructive notice. Is, hey, please keep in mind that you're going to need to have an extra wide driveway in order to service this. You're going to need left turn in, right turn out, and a through lane, other things like that, so we can get through. So try not to get, again, too tied up in this at this point, because it is essentially constructive notice to the developer.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Spencer. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case 22-017? Please state your name and address, please, ma'am.
I am Jolitha Alford, and I live at 1205 Hamilton. I own a piece of property across the alley from this on South Lee. And I was at the hearing when this was changed to an RV, and I was overall in favor of that because I like to see Roswell grow in that situation. But I think for the single-family resident type thing, apartments will probably be more similar in that kind of stuff. I did have a question about the 60 and all of that and what have you. My next question is, where will the right-of-way access on the west side be in relationship to the single-family homes that are already in the area?
I think it's nothing will change. There's a 20, from what I understand it, there's a 20-foot alley on that west side. So there will be, that 20-foot alley will remain, and they will have a 6-foot privacy fence up on that west side.
You answered my second question then, the height of the privacy fence, and do we know at this point in time what type of construction?
It just has to be a solid type fence.
It'd have to be
See-through.
Solid?
That you can't see through, from my
Okay.
understanding. Correct, Kevin?
Okay, so
6-foot privacy fence, so they have some different options in there, what they can do, and they don't have to actually submit that until they're submitting their site plans.
okay. My next question is that the R3 zoning allows for 2 stories. Do we know if this is basically going to be 1 or 2 story units there?
Go ahead, Freddie. Come on up.
It will be 2 stories.
Okay.
Stories.
I want to offer a concern in relationship to that. If there are 2-story units right next to the alley, and the backyards for children and what have you are also on that the east side, kind of a privacy type thing. I don't know how that might be, but
Well, the developer, when he decides to develop, may put a road or something right on the alley. Just once he comes up, I'm sure he'll answer some of these questions.
okay. And those are my only concerns. I thank you, and I'm glad to see Roswell expanding some.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Yes, my name is Freddie Nasrallah. I'm the developer, and I own the property. So I'm just basically here to answer any questions that you guys have.
Do you have like an existing plan to do, like what you're planning on doing, or you just have it kind of in your head, or?
I got kind of just the R3. I'm gonna do rows of apartments, 2-story. And to answer her question, I was planning on planting trees in the back right there.
Okay, all right. That was something I was going to recommend if you weren't, so.
Did you hear that, ma'am? He plans on putting some trees back there. Anything else, Freddie, you want to mention or anything? Any questions of Freddie? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of case 22017? Anyone wishing to speak against 22017? And I'm not sure if the lady just spoke, or she was in favor or against, but we'll kind of let her. Okay, in favor overall. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody wishing to speak against case 22017? Any further questions from the commissioners? If not, I'd accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, based on the land use and zoning considerations, finding of facts surrounding land uses, the regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommendations, and testimony heard this evening, I would motion to approve case 22-017.
Second.
We have a motion by James and a second by Saul to approve the zone change for case number 22-017. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the next few cases, if it would please the chair and the commission, items number 3 and 4, staff can go ahead and combine the staff report in the interest of both efficiency and not having to repeat ourselves.
We would like
multiple
that very
times.
much.
Okay. We can also combine cases 5 and 6 together into a single presentation, as well as cases 7 and 8, and 8, 9, and 10. So we can just double up the staff presentations, and then you can take your votes at the end on both items under the agenda.
Okay, so 3 and 4 are going to be combined, or the next two.
4 can go together, 5 and 6 can go together, 7 and 8, and 9 and 10.
Gotcha.
But we need separate votes.
You still have to take separate votes. Yes.
Okay, so now we have case number 22-018 and 22-019, the final plat, 018 being the zone change. Do you want a waiving of the reading of finding of facts, 2 of them, or just 1?
I don't see any reason why you can't combine that as well.
Okay, I'd accept a motion on that, please.
Motion to waive the reading of finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations with respect to case 22-018 and
Okay, so that's not correct though, right? 2218 is a zone change, right? Not a final plat?
Correct. Sorry.
So that's a, yeah, we've got a typo on our,
I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of finding of the facts with respect to case 22-018 and case 22-019.
Second.
so we have a motion by Saul and a second by Jesse to waive the reading of the finding of facts for 22-018, the zone change, and 22-019, the final plat. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you, it passes. We got you, Jana, we heard you.
Thank you.
Spencer, would you like to present these?
Yes, sir. All right, so next on the agenda, we have zoning case 22-018 ZOC and 22-019 F-plat, which will be presented together because they're both located at 1001 West Jaffa, the northwest corner of Jaffa Street and South Union Ave. So case 22-018 is a request for a zone change from R2 residential to R3 residential, while case 22-019 F-plat is a request for approval of the Ruiz Mesa Park Number 4 replat, which is a final plat, to create 4 residential lots. So this table here shows the adjacent land uses again with R1 residential properties to the north and the south, undeveloped R2 land to the west, and an R1 place of worship to the east. So there you go. So the intent of both these zoning cases, it's to develop 1 and 2 bedroom apartment units with a total of 19 units proposed to date. So apartments are being proposed on 3 of the final plat's 4 lots, where both lots 15C and 15B will have 4 2-bedroom units and 4 1-bedroom units. And on lot 15A, 2 bedroom units are being proposed, or excuse me, 3 2-bedroom units are being proposed. So the one-bedroom units will be 630 square feet, while the two-bedroom units will be 875 square feet. All of the units will be single-story, and fences will be constructed around the perimeter. So a parking analysis has been conducted for the property. Pursuant to the city's zoning ordinance, 2 spaces are required per unit. However, the Community Development Department has approved 1.5 spaces per unit, totaling 31 parking spaces. So the applicant has communicated with the Solid Waste Department, and they're currently working together on finalizing the location and the orientation of the dumpsters for the property. The dumpsters will be located on the north side of the property within the gates of the complex. They will have roll-off bins, and they will be serviced from the alley to the north. And the dumpster enclosures also will have roofs to avoid trash blowing all over when it gets windy. As of today's date, we have received 3 protest letters, which are up there on the dais, 1 from outside the notification area, as well as 2 in-person inquiries. However, based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses, and the regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommends approval of zoning case 22-018 ZOC, a zone change from R2 residential to R3 residential at 1001 West Jaffa Street. Also, based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses and regulations in the zoning ordinance and subdivision code, staff recommends approval of zoning case 22-019 ZOC, FPlat, the Rees Mesa Park number 4 replat, final plat to create 4 residential lots. And we stand for any questions.
Question?
Sure.
Chairman. Spencer, I guess the question that I have has to do with that waiver of the required parking of 2 spaces down to 1.5. So why that?
Commissioner Henderson, the rationale behind that primarily has to do with the size of the units themselves. We have a number of 1-bedroom units. It would be highly unlikely that you would need 2 parking spaces for a 1-bedroom unit. However, it would be more likely that you may need additional parking for guests and visitors. So by reducing the required parking down to 1.5 per unit, we ended up with more than adequate parking for the 1-bedroom units, plus additional parking for the any guests that would be coming to the area. We worked all this out. Again, this is this project. We met extensively with the developer and the site architect, who I am very pleased to let you know the site developer. These are local people. They've owned the property for many years. The young man doing the design work on it is a recent graduate from the University of New Mexico, also graduated recently with his degree in architecture, and he's been very good about working with us and coming up with a design that would have minimal impact on the surrounding neighborhood, which is why they're all 1-story units, yet would continue to go ahead and provide housing of a smaller scale and smaller type that would allow for the people, essentially working people in the area, to have a nice new place to live on the south side of town. So all that was taken into account, and it was determined that, again, with the 1-bedroom units, you're most likely going to have single people, 1 car. 1.5 gives us a little bit of flexibility so that if they have people come over to visit or barbecue or things like that, they've got that room.
Thank you. I think that then we could expect the same type of thinking in the future for a 1-bedroom unit.
You can expect some different thinking and different approaches to parking in all zones from now forward. The city, as well as nationwide, we're taking a good hard look at our essentially what are arbitrary parking requirements. Somebody some years ago picked a number and said we should have 2 spaces per unit, and we've never gone back and questioned whether that is a valid number. We're starting now to question that, so we're asking more and more developers, instead of going through the process of us arbitrarily assigning a number of parking stalls, would you tell us, do a parking analysis, tell us what you believe you need to operate successfully. And this comes out of the number of the projects that we've done for a lot of our big box retailers over the years. Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's, all of those big boxes, they know exactly the value of every square foot of that building, and they know exactly how many parking spaces they need in order to serve their clientele. I believe it would be rather disingenuous of us to say that we know better how to design a parking lot than they do. It's their job to get people in, out, and separate from them from their money as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Something I'll add to that too is you got to realize in a lot of the one-bedroom units, people may not even have a car.
Yep.
It's a common thing nowadays. So you could have a unit that doesn't even need a parking. I mean, they're still going to have one, but they may not even need one.
Any other questions? Thank you, Spencer. So being that we're kind of listening to both cases, the zone change and the final plat, fixing to ask if there's anybody wishing to speak in favor and then against. So I would think you could come up and since they're so closely related, you could probably not have to deviate or whatever, that you're just, unless you want to, is why you're against the zone change or whatever. But anyway, we'll take care of that as it comes. If there's anyone wishing to speak in favor at 22018 or 019, please come forward. Anybody in favor of 22018 and 019? Is the owner, developer, anybody here? Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Gerardo Ruiz. I live at 803 Barnett Drive, and my dad is a developer. And I worked with the city to put together these plans. I think they would serve the community well. I live right down the road from there too, so I could see the need for more housing there. It's right by a school. It would serve families. And in terms of there not being many R3s around there, actually just across the corner southeast is also R3. So I think it would be fitting to have one more R3 lot. And that's all.
Are you the gentleman that went off to school and came back?
Yes, sir.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else in favor of this case? Okay, now, is anybody against either one of these cases, which are basically the same case? Please step forward. Anybody against case 22018 or 019?
Gentlemen, my name's James A. Doctor. I reside at 1100 Purdue, 88203. I guess I'm to assume that the letters that you saw as a protest you have not read. Only these people have. Oh, so you have them.
We
Okay.
received copies of them before the meeting, yes.
Well, I appreciate that. I was wondering about that. Well, I appreciate that, and I just wanted to show up in person as a face to put on those letters in my opposition of that. I have been waiting for somebody to open up selling a lot that I could build a house on in the R2 zone. It's just never came available. And in fact, when we tried to research the owner, the gentleman, he seemed to be living in Albuquerque. He says he lives here, but when we did an online search of the gentleman listed here on this they said he lived in Albuquerque. So also my concern is that once it gets changed to an R3, well, down the road changes could occur and we could see a multi-story unit as what's been described in the previous plat, which trees or not, you're not going to have that kind of privacy from a second-story window. I have a son that lives in a second-story apartment, and we can see into the backyards of the residential community right across the alley. So, thank you for your time. once again, I'm in protest of changing this to an R3 zone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else back there in that group want to get up and speak against? Or anybody else against this case? Anybody online? Thank you. Staff, any questions of staff, commissioners, or anything, or any? Come on up.
Any one of you gentlemen can drive through the alley right now after the meeting and see what kind of trash is getting blown around now due to the lack of maintenance on the dumpsters. That last severe windstorm tore a lot of lids off. We actually contacted the city to have them do something about it. After a few weeks, nobody did. I actually went down to a dumpster that had a good left side lid and brought it over and put it on our dumpster that had a good right side lid. So I fixed the only dumpster in the alley that currently isn't blowing over and blowing trash. When he details about the alley access, unless that thing's a shed, I don't see how you're going to keep the trash from blowing out of it. Thank you. Pardon me for the interruption.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a problem everywhere. I mean, and I'm sure the cities, Mr. Nahar over there is all over that. All right, anybody else against?
If we can I'd like to make a comment real quick about the trash.
Sure.
Because you're absolutely correct, and this gentleman is absolutely correct. Trash is a concern. We are in the process, not Mr. Nahar, but Mr. Nahar and I and Abraham Chaparro, our director of solid waste. There will be an update to the solid waste code in the near future. The solid waste department is purchasing new trucks that are now new front loaders. We are requiring new designs on the trash enclosures themselves, which include lids and tops, so that you will begin to see a significant reduction in all of that. And then on top of everything else, in many of the new projects that are being built, we're actually eliminating the alleys so that in single-family residential zones, you will have the containers out in the front. You'll bring them, you'll roll them out to the front once a week. The smaller 90-gallon containers, and they will dump them. So there's going to be some big changes, all intending to reduce the amount of blowing trash that you see around town. And with respect, I do want to make it very clear so that you have all the information. The proximity to the existing single-family residential was something that was taken into account when we were talking with the developer about this project. None of these units are two-story. These are all single-story units, very similar to what you have adjacent. Additionally, the density on this project is exceedingly low when compared to other projects. If you look at the 3 lots that we have here, we have about 1.8 acres. In a traditional R2 zone, 1.8 acres, you could get almost 40 dwelling units. This is coming in at 19. Okay? It's a dramatic reduction in overall density, a dramatic reduction in overall height. It's being, all the units themselves are not going to be impacted. The only traffic on the alley is going to be the trash trucks themselves. Everything else will be dedicated out to Jaffa. And I believe Jaffa is that a residential collector, Mr. Nahar, or is that a?
Both Jaffa and Union are collectors.
Okay. So they're designed to carry heavier traffic loads.
Theoretically. Sure. Yeah, Union's okay.
Gentlemen, I would like to see him take care of our current trash problem before he promises how he's going to take care of the upcoming one.
The trash problem has no bearing at this meeting. This is a zoning meeting, not a
Also,
trash meeting.
The parking situation, I think, is erratic to be relying on a big corporation to tell us how many parking spaces we need. From what I've seen in the apartment complexes, 1 bedroom, 2 people, man, woman, she goes here, he goes there. They're still going to need 2 spaces one way or the other. All right.
Okay. I will accept a motion on case number 22-018, the zone change, please.
Based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of the facts surrounding land uses, regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommendation, and testimony heard this evening, I'd like to make a motion to approve case 22-018 ZOC.
Second.
We have a motion by Saul and a second by Richard. Did you get in on that on the end?
Jesse got in before I did.
Yeah, we'll give it to Richard. Let him know he's here. To approve case number 22-01C, the ZOC zone change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, Jenna. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then accept a motion for 22-019, which is a recommendation to the city council for the final plat.
Based on land use and zoning considerations, findings of the fact surrounding land uses, and the regulations established in the zoning ordinance and subdivision code, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve zoning case 22-019F plat.
Second.
We have a motion by Saul and a second by Richard to recommend approval to the city council of the final plat for case 22-019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Case passes. As I mentioned earlier, you guys out there that are against it, it will go to city council. Do they need to appeal it if it's already going to city council? Or can they just show up?
This item does not go to city council.
The fi-
Only cannabis items go direct to city council, or
Only appealed items will go to council on this type of
final
matter.
plat has to go to city council. I'm
On
sorry.
this type of matter, only appealed. So if they want it to go to council, they have to appeal it.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm getting different vibes here because our paper says it goes to city council as a final plat. They're saying over here now it does, and Lewis, you're saying
Zoning only goes to city council when it's appealed. Final plats goes to city council as a final plat.
do they need to appeal it if they want to?
Do need to appeal it, otherwise council will assume that everything is good.
Meredith, do you agree with that? Should they then, do they need to appeal, since they're kind of linked, do they need to appeal the zoning case and the final plat? Or since the zoning case doesn't even go to the council, I don't know if it would, do they need to appeal them both, I guess? Or
Chair Story, Commissioners, if they're opposed to the zone change, then they have the opportunity to appeal that to city council. The preliminary plat, the final plat goes to city council, which would also serve as the appeal board. If they wish to appeal the final plat, then they should file an appeal.
because there's paperwork and cost associated with the appeal, right?
Correct. It's the fee to appeal is $100. Appeals need to be submitted to the city clerk's office before noon on Thursday, this Thursday.
And so that's kind of what I was getting at. Do they, if the final plat goes to city council anyway, do they need to appeal that?
To the question, again, we have to go back and if Parker is still online, this may be a where we can get in there. The zone change, or the zone, we're going to have to now, we've been talking about these two side by side, but now for purposes of an appeal, you have to separate the two. Like you waive the findings of fact, the readings of the findings of fact. An appeal still has to, if it's going to be upheld or you're going to be overturned, there still have to be findings of fact. With respect to the final plat, because it follows all the rules of the subdivision code, the city, and there is nothing for anyone to hang a hat. You cannot make findings that this map is in error or is going to be a material detriment to the city or anything else. So if they're going to object, they must object to the zone change, because it's the zone change that's creating the opportunity for the multifamily development.
So in a nutshell, if you guys are wanting to stand up in front of city council to protest the two cases or the one cases, you need to appeal the zone change. And that was what you have to have into the city clerk by noon on Thursday, which I'm not sure what it all takes to fill out or what all it entails, but you need to get on that right away in the morning, one of you, if that's what you want to do. Thank y'all. You're welcome to leave if you want, or you're welcome to stay. So now we were over on to, we're on number 5, and we're putting 5 and 6 together. Now we have a case 22-020, and case, it says a zone change, and case 22-021, which is a request for a conditional use permit, both retaining to, I guess, a community solar facility on East 2nd and East Alameda Street. May I have a motion for the reading of the finding of facts, please? We have a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to waive the readings of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations for case 22-020 and 22-021. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed, same sign. Passes. Now we have Meredith. You going to present these cases to us, please?
Good evening, Chair Story, Commissioners. We have 2 cases before you over on East 2nd Street between 2nd and Alameda. And just want to let you know that there were some audience members who arrived after the swearing in, and I don't know if any of them plan to speak, and we need to make sure that they signed in if they intend to speak.
So if any of you people that did come in late, if you have signed up to speak and didn't get sworn in, would you please stand up, please? Were you here for the swearing in? Okay. Thank you.
So we have 2 zoning cases. One is a zone change and one is a conditional use permit. The intended use of the property is for a 2.70 megawatt community solar facility. I'll talk about the zone change first. This is for lot number 2 down here on Alameda Avenue, and I'm assigned the address of 1607 East Alameda Street to this property. And this is a zone change from RMS residential mobile home subdivision to I-1 light industrial zoning district for 2.5 acres. The second case is a request for a conditional use permit for a 2.70 megawatt solar energy facility on approximately 15.5 acres, which includes the property to the north, lot number 1, which is already zoned I-1, and the 2.5 acre property under consideration for the zone change.
Meredith, so just to be clear here, so the large property up there, lot 1, is already I-1. The zone change is just for lot 2 on the southeast corner on Alameda.
Correct. All of the large property is already zoned I-1.
Okay, thank you.
Light industrial. So there's various land uses surrounding the north. Again, is 12.9 acres, already zoned I-1. To the south is an undeveloped parcel of land that is under the process of being purchased by the Roswell Independent School District for the relocation of the Nancy Lopez Elementary School. To the west, there's single wides and double wide mobile homes in an MHC, a very small MHC zoning district. And to the east is the county single family home on agricultural land. Now, for the special use permit, including 15.5 acres, it's basically the same zoning on the various sides of the property, except to the north of 2nd Street. It's agricultural land in Chavez County, which includes both I-1, light industrial zoning, and rural suburban. And to the west, we have homes, residential buildings with businesses, and agriculture, C2, R3, MHC, and C1. And on the east, we have C2 inside the city limits that's adjacent to the large parcel up along 2nd Street, and also ETZ commercial and ETZ rural suburban, including the Trailer Village RV Park. Here's the zoning map and the Chavez County Assessor's map that shows the zoning and the adjacent land uses. It's pretty rural in character out there. So a little background information. The large lot number 1 that was rezoned already to light industrial went through zoning changes in 2019 and 2014. The NMDOT will review access, driveway improvements, and culverts for drainage on East 2nd Street when and if this gets to the development stage. CVE North America, Inc. is the applicant on this property. The property is owned by the Gallaghers, and they are proposing a 2.70 megawatt community solar facility. And Mr. Wieland is here with CVE North America and can tell you a little bit more about what community solar means. The fire marshal has reviewed the site plan and included some changes that he would like to see made to the site plan with access from Alameda, or the drive going all the way through from 2nd to Alameda. There will also be some brush-free areas. A little bit about the New Mexico Community Solar Program. The Community Solar Act was signed into law in 2021 and allows for people or homeowners or business owners that don't have rooftop availability for solar to invest or subscribe to solar. It doesn't mean that this facility is going to be providing solar directly to them, to their place of residence or their business, but they can subscribe and participate in renewable energy and save up to 10% annually on their electric bills. There's several exhibits included in the packet. And we also have conditions of approval in the packet with things like a landscape and vegetation plan, construction, fugitive dust management plan, so forth. And then the regular things that come along with development, such as civil plans. The solar array, I've been told, is about a 35-year project life cycle, and the equipment shouldn't exceed 12 feet in height. It might be even lower than that, possibly 9 feet. There'll be a landscape buffer of native and drought-tolerant vegetation between the property lines and the fence, and they have submitted a plan to remove any debris, vegetation, tumbleweeds, that kind of nuisance vegetation. We've received 2 protest letters for both cases. One of the protest letters includes a petition with signatures of 5 property owners within the 100-foot notification area. Those letters combined, the property area combined, is 34% of the total notification area, and that does not include the properties under consideration. So it's about 29 acres. And then the land protest letters include about 10 acres of that, so 34%. So we will need a 2/3 vote to approve
Does that mean it would be on a roll call?
both of these cases. Excuse me?
Be a roll call vote, individual vote.
We could do that.
Don't have to. I'm just asking if we need to.
In this particular case, because of the number of objections, a roll call vote is appropriate. Yes.
So based on, case number F5, item number F5, case 22-020, zone change. Based on land use and zoning considerations, findings of facts surrounding land uses and the regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a public hearing that make a motion for zoning case 22-02, a zone change from RMS to I1, light industrial. And then a second motion, we're requesting for a conditional use permit for a 2.70 megawatt community solar facility. And I stand for questions.
Thank you, Meredith. Any questions of Meredith?
Mr. Chairman, I want to be sure that the commission knows that parcel 13, owned by the state of New Mexico, will be owned by RISD as the future site for Nancy Lopez.
Can you go back to that slide so we can see what you're talking about?
So where the big yellow star is on Alameda, that parcel is just south, that big parcel on the south side of Alameda.
So they're going to build a new school there, fronting onto Alameda?
That is correct.
Any questions? Thank you, Meredith.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
An employee of the county, we have already addressed this issue, so I use myself from the vote on this, 22-0.
Okay.
Please restate, Commissioner Gutierrez.
As a factual statement, I am currently an employee of the county planning and zoning, so I would need to recuse myself from making a vote on 22-021, since that is currently on our agenda as well.
Does he need to remove himself from up here and come sit down, or do you think he's okay to stay?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that you just being an employee of the county is a rationale for recusing yourself.
It has come up as an agenda item with the county.
If you believe it is in the best interest and you want to avoid any appearance of impropriety, then not only should you effectively recuse yourself, but during the remaining deliberations, you probably should leave the room as well.
And just come sit in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Richard. If you're not comfortable with it and you want to recuse yourself, then just come have a seat in the audience. Wait a minute, Richard.
Chair Story, Commissioner Gutierrez. This property is inside the city limits. It's not in the ETZ. It's inside the city limits.
In indicating that this was on the agenda, it's probably some other solar facility that was on ours. So
Correct. The ETZ Commission has heard several cases for community solar in the ETZ, but this particular property is definitely inside the city limits. It's right on the line, but it's inside the city limits.
Correct. The next ETZ solar agenda item is at the corner South Main and O'Connor Road. Relief route.
I
Relief
think you're
route in
good,
South
Richard.
Main.
I think you're good. At least you brought it up. We're all aware of the fact, so I think we're good.
So I agree that I could vote on this one.
So that's a never mind. Okay, thank you, Meredith. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of case 22020 and 22021 separately and togetherly?
Sir, good to see the commission. Thanks for having me. My name is Carson Wynand. I'm Senior Business Developer with CV North America. Here to talk about our community solar project off of East 2nd Street at the Chad Gallagher property. I'll give a brief introduction to CVE North America. I'll give a brief introduction to the state level community solar program, and then I'll move into how community solar works and then the site specifics. But Meredith did a great job introducing the project. So we're a nationwide community solar developer. We're headquartered out of New York City. We've been in North America for 5 years. We're part of a larger company that's been around for 12 years. They're headquartered out of France, and we are 250 employees worldwide. We've developed over 100 projects, 100 individual different projects, constructed, in operation. We're the long-term owner and operator of all of our projects. It adds up to over 500 megawatts total worldwide. In the 5 years that we've been in North America, we've constructed 7 projects in Massachusetts across 7 individual sites. We're in construction on 70 megawatts in New York State currently across 13 different sites, and we're expanding west. We're expanding into a handful of different states: Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Mexico. We really have to chase where the legislation, the policy, the energy policy allows us to pursue these projects. So that takes me to the New Mexico program. It was passed in April 2021. They've been promulgating the regulations, I think is the legal term. They've been putting it all into effect in the past year. They finally have issued a final order, a final ruling for the community solar program. It will take shape as an RFP. So it's a 200 megawatt program total, split across the 3 different major utilities in New Mexico: Excel, PNM, and El Paso. 50 megawatts will go to Excel. This is the utility that we're located in here in Roswell. And about 125 megawatts going to PNM. It's split proportionally based on their customer load. It's a non-price-based RFP, meaning solar developers develop their solar projects as best they can. They submit into this RFP, and it's ranked not according to price, but a set of other criteria: whether or not you have permits, whether or not you have financing available, what are your commitments to the local community, how many low-income customers are you serving, what the level of discount you're offering is. That's the one price-based component. So we plan to participate in that RFP later this year. It's set to open up in September, and then the PRC, the State Level Utility Commission, will evaluate all of the submissions, rank them, and award the winners. There's a maximum system size of 5 megawatts per project, so that's roughly, if each project was 5 megawatts in Excel, that would be 10 projects in Excel in southeast New Mexico. I think it'll be more likely 20. For example, this project is less than 5 megawatts. Not every site is a perfect 5 megawatts. So roughly about 20 projects will be awarded in southeast New Mexico. Yes?
Good question, because So will this project go forward if you're not successful on the RFP?
It will be placed on hold. And what they've announced in their law is that there'll be another program in 2024. More of a long-term, larger reaching, more megawatts allowed program. This is sort of a pilot program, their first attempt. If we don't qualify for this, if we don't win in the RFP, we're gonna, take a breather and see what comes next a year later.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So how community solar works, this site will benefit about 600 homes, 600 Excel utility accounts within Excel. We target utility accounts closest to the project site first and work out. We target customers just through traditional marketing means, phone, email, online ads, newspaper ads, mailers. It's a very low risk proposition for them. It's typically very easy to get these customers signed up. It's guaranteed savings monthly on your electricity bill. There's no cost to sign up. There's no cost to terminate. We deliver these discounts month to month for the next 25 years. So we generate electricity from our site back into the utility grid, back to Excel. They award us credits, monetary credits. We can then allocate those credits to your utility account. They show up as a deduction, and then you pay a second bill to CVE, and we get reimbursed for those credits. So you may have a bill for $100 with Excel. We can allocate $100 of credits to your bill. You would owe Excel $0, and then you would pay CVE anywhere from $70 to $90, depending on the final discount we award. So you're paying $70, $80, $90 for $100 in energy, and you're net saving 10 to 30%. If you add all this up, the savings to these 600 Excel utility accounts over the next 25 years is in the millions of dollars. At a 10% discount, I believe it's about $1.5 million. At a 20% discount, it would be roughly $3 million. At a 30% discount, it would be roughly $4.5 million. Under the state program, the RFP, there are requirements. 30% of these customers must be low income. You get awarded additional points, so there's an incentive to have up to 50% of the customers be low income, and that's what we are planning to submit for. There's also incentives, like I said, to submit up to a 30% discount. So I think it's safe to say 50% of the site will be low income customers with a 30% discount on their energy bills. Yep, so the site is 2.7 megawatts. It's about 6,000 panels. There'll be trackers, meaning they follow the sun throughout the day. They face east in the morning and then west in the afternoon. At noon, they're perfectly flat, 5 feet high off the ground, facing directly up to the sky. They're 9.5 feet high in the morning and the evening when they're fully tilted. They're not 12 feet, they're not 15 feet. They'll be spaced about 14 feet apart. I know one of the conditions was at least 10 feet apart. We can comply with that. Setbacks on the front and rear are 35 feet off 2nd Street in Alameda, 35 feet off the side, it's 40 feet. Within those setbacks is a 20-foot wide landscaping buffer with an 8-foot high wooden fence. We will ensure the landscaping takes hold. Part of our landscaping plan included a requirement for us to make sure it does take hold. Bringing a watering truck on site for the first 2 years to make sure they take root. We will be planting desert willow trees, Rocky Mountain juniper trees, and then three different shrubs, Ocotillo, Tio, red yucca, and Russian sage. We consulted with the town's arborist on this. I forget her name right now, but we did a review, and this was selected to be the best fitting vegetation for the site, given the climate. Within the fenced area underneath the array, we're not planning to plant anything. Just native vegetation will grow back, and this will help with dust control. The access road is 26 foot wide. It will be gravel, currently only from East 2nd Street to about the middle of the facility. And I know there's some comments from the fire chief on extending it all the way through. We can take a look at that and try to accommodate that. The main parcel is Industrial 1, I-1, about 13 acres. The secondary parcel on Alameda, 2.5 acres, currently zoned RMS. This is the site we're seeking a rezoning on. 15.5 acres total. We've submitted a decommissioning plan, so we plan to decommission the site at the end of its useful life. We can even place a bond. This is something we see with a lot of towns, counties, cities, is they want some sort of surety for the amount. To decommission the site, to make sure that the funds are there just in case we are not around in year 35. But we will remove the access road, we will remove the racking, the panels, the fencing, the landscaping, the inverters, the transformers, if there are any above ground poles, they'll be removed. Back to existing pre-solar conditions. It's a lease. It's a 35-year lease with Mr. Gallagher. We're not planning to purchase the property, so it will stay with Mr. Gallagher. Yep, I think that covers it. There should be no outrageous visual impacts. It'll be very well screened by the fence, by the landscaping. The elevation of the surrounding properties is of equal elevation. It's not like there's any properties peering down into the array. Construction will be very minimal. Once it's operational, 1 or 2 cars a month for routine maintenance. I guess, maybe an additional car for the watering truck. But no strain on traffic, no strain on the school district, no strain on fire and police. It's a very net accretive addition to the city. There's no strain on town services. It will be placed on the property tax roll and pay ad valorem full property tax at an assessed value with the city assessor. And I believe that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
On the ground cover, you'll need to be able to water that to begin with, at least. Otherwise, you won't have anything to keep down the dust. So I don't know what your plan there might be, but a native grass will grow if it's watered, but you'll have to water it to begin with anyway. On the decommissioning of the unit, how is the owner assured of that? Will you have a bond, or will you handshake, or what?
Yeah.
What assurance does the owner have that you just won't walk away?
Yeah, well, there's the decommissioning plan recorded with the city. Oftentimes there's a decommissioning bond recorded with the city. There's no decommissioning bond with the owner, but there's damages within the lease. We're contractually obligated to remove after a certain period of time. Otherwise, he could sue us.
Any other questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of case 2220 and 2221? Being none, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of case 2220 and 2221? Please state your name and address, please, and like I said at the beginning, please hold your to 3 minutes, please.
I will try. I got a lot of questions too, that because he's said things. My name is Morgan Finnig, 1706 East 2nd Street. I own Trailer Village RV Park, which is the RV park on the east side of the proposed property. So the question that they just asked you about who holds you liable for removing this. So what if your business no longer exists in 35 years? Because my business has been there for 73. So I want to know, you being my neighbor, who's going to remove this? But you didn't answer, do you have a bond or not? You can provide, but it's not, okay, all right. Okay, okay. Let's see. Another thing that he brought up that, sorry, I have my notes to actually talk to you guys about what we're interested in and then things that he's brought up. So we don't even get to keep the solar here local. It's just 600 homes. That's kind of a concern of mine. If we're gonna take up land in the city, it should probably benefit the city totally. So again, I'm representing property number 3 and then also the surrounding properties. I did go ahead and meet all the neighbors that I was able to. We had 68 hours from the time that the packet was provided to us. And then we also had horrible flooding, which is a concern that I'm bringing up. The property in question floods terribly. The property is in the center, it's the highest point, and it all slopes off to all the surrounding properties and all of that floods. We are extremely concerned with excavating that property, that it will continue to push even more water towards all the properties. I know you said your company's out of New York. We don't get rain here very often, and when we do, unfortunately, it's like, 8 inches all at once. And so flooding's very, very serious. Noise and dust, we talked about. Is there a way to put the map back up on the thing so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about? I don't know who to talk to about this.
And ma'am, while she's doing that, I think that there still will be a site design to submit it to the city. Is that correct, Louis? When you guys will be looking at the drainage?
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner, we've already discussed that with the applicant. What I would recommend and I request, let me hear all the concerns of all the citizens.
Okay, yep.
And then I can probably answer a bunch of questions on top of what's already been answered.
Yep, that works.
Because I know there's other people here to speak against.
Okay, that works.
So like I said, flooding is the main issue of all of the surrounding properties. Noise and dust, especially during the construction phase of it. The overall appearance, the glare, the heat island effect, which I know that some of it was addressed in the packet. I tried to get through all 87 pages. There was a lot of numbers that were posted on the slides that were different than what was in the packet, so that's a little concerning. Maintenance, although defined in the information packet that they would come, and he addressed that today too, once or twice a month, including a water truck. The current owners don't maintain that property. The surrounding area tries to all kind of pitch in together and pick up all of the garbage and debris that comes off of that property. Vegetation was proposed in the information packet. And again, he talked about a watering truck, and one of you brought up the fact that it would need to be watered frequently here as we don't have a lot of water. This property does not have water rights. There is a well at the back on, it would be lot 7, I think it is. And there is a right of waterway that goes 20 foot into the property all the way across Lonnie Lee's property, and that's owned by the Johnsons. So if they do fence this property in, that would fence in the right of waterway. So that would be an issue as well. Let's see. Property value is also another concern. And lastly, that the fact that this is being placed basically in the middle of a subdivision with 15 acres of panels pointed directly at homes. That was when I was under the understanding that this was a south-facing solar panel, but now that we know that they pivot east to west, it's now affecting all properties on all angles. And I guess the southern ones won't get it as bad. But I want to point out, when he was talking about vegetation, if you look at, again, property number 3, so we're the RV park, we have a cul-de-sac on the back end. That field next to us gets, again, because it's not maintained, it gets so overgrown, and the tumbleweeds get so bad to the point that I've had customers call me in the office, and we've had to go back with a flatbed trailer and remove tumbleweeds from their RV because they could not get out of their door. RVs are anywhere between 12 foot to 13 foot 5 inches. They can see over the fence, no problem. That's part of one thing that our customers love so much is that they look at a western sunset. The other thing, like I said, is our business has been there for a really long time, and I know that solar is great. I just am opposed to it in this specific location. Again, it's in the city, not in the county, out away from everybody. It's also going to be facing a school, which I don't know why we need it to face a school. And the amount of money that my customers put into this community, there's an estimate of $93 a day that visitors to Roswell spend, like in tourism. So if I took just numbers from guests that stay in my park in a year, that is $4 million a year that they are spending in Roswell. So, you know, over this 35-year span of this project, that's $140 million guests in my park are spending. And I'm concerned that it's going to affect the revenue of my business and also affect businesses in town. So I have a group here, everybody that's against it. Y'all raise your hand. Okay. That way, and if anybody has anything else to add, but do you guys have any questions for me about the property or?
Any questions?
I would also be extremely, and I guess I shouldn't say this for them, but I'm assuming everybody else would be extremely open to sitting down and having open discussions about this, not just receiving a letter saying this is what's happening. So.
I'm sure the developer and the city would be more than happy to, if this proceeds past this evening, to do that with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else in your group that would like to say something different? If not, could we see a show of hands, please, one more time of all you all that were back there in opposition to this? Okay. Thank you all. Have any questions of anybody out there? Or? Okay. Lewis, you want to hit on a few items?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commission. We have met with this client, and the drainage has already been addressed. I'm very familiar with the drainage over there, as Wesley Needham did file a claim against the DOT back a few years back. And we did talk about having to berm that stuff to protect the mobile home park and the Needham property. There is water available for landscaping. The city put in a 10-inch water line on East 2nd 2 or 3 years ago. So I do expect to have a water meter there for irrigation. The 8-foot fence is higher than normal, which I think is pretty good there, solid fence. The maintenance of the land and weeds, familiar with some of the solar farms that we have, they have to keep the weeds down. It's a fire hazard. So you would have maintenance there that you don't have now. The other thing is the school. The school, I mean, the talks of the school I've been aware of for a couple of years. But let's look at this property that's already I-1. I've already experienced other inquiries of commercial stores with liquor, which I wasn't too happy about because traffic on 2nd Street, and then if they happen to, this doesn't go through and there is an establishment with liquor there, what kind of people will you have hanging out around the school? And if they're there before the school, that 300 feet doesn't count because they were there first. The other thing that we've had inquiries on is industrial truck sites. So that would be a yard for industrial trucks where you would have traffic coming in trucks almost 24 hours a day. So from my point of view, this is probably the most docile and neutral type of development. Wouldn't have the traffic, wouldn't have to supply as much infrastructure, and with the school being proposed there with the 8-foot screen, if it's not commercial, then you wouldn't have people have any business in that lot because there's nothing there but just solar panels. So from that point of view, the less impact to the neighborhood, I feel this one is better than all the other choices that have already come before, and for whatever reason they weren't ready. But if this property is not used and tied up for the 35 years. But this, I feel that sooner or later there's going to be another convenience store or truck service that's going to take up shop there, and those already fall between industrial uses that we have. And I think that's it for right now, Commissioner.
Thank you. Ma'am, does that explanation of anything, does that alter your all's feelings at all, or? Well, I think what Mr. Nahar was trying to point out is that the majority of that, part is already zoned I-1. And so somebody could purchase that property and come in right now and put anything in there that's allowed in the I-1 district. I don't know anything about that. Meredith,
Chair Story, Commissioners, to address that zone change, there were two zone changes on that property. First, the first top part, the north part, and then the middle part, or the rest of it, of the big property. And during one of those zone changes, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to deny. But the Shepherds who owned the parcel at the time, they appealed to City Council, and City Council overturned Planning and Zoning Commission's denial. And so it was rezoned. And then in 2019, the rest of the property was rezoned to I-1.
Could you have come up to the mic so we can record her?
I'm assuming that when that all happened, it was a very similar situation to what just happened here tonight, that nobody knew that they needed to actually appeal, that it didn't just go straight to City Council, or that they probably were not notified that there was an appeal done. So
well, the way it sounds to me, and the way that one happened, is that the commission, whoever it was at the time, voted against it.
Mhm.
And so then evidently the property owner appealed it at the City Council meeting.
Correct.
And the decision was overturned by City Council.
Right, but were the property owners made aware of the appeal, is what my question is. So that's, like I said, none of them even knew, because they were at this meeting, knew it was, denied. So they all went home thinking, yeah, we did it. Well, then a couple years later, they all find out, oh no, it was rezoned. So you can imagine the shocker.
Is there no notice sent out when a case is appealed to the property owners?
There is no renotice sent. It's just part of the notices with the public, with the City Council agenda.
Mystery solved.
Appeal hearings do follow different rules than Planning and Zoning Commission, and appeal hearing notifications are sent out at large to by the City Clerk. So it's a different process completely, which is why it behooves people to pay attention to the newspaper and the radio as well as agenda items.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a point of information, the city has a piece of leased land out on West Brasher Road, The site is immediately east of the fire training center. And that is leased to a company that has a solar array there. It's not a large facility, but I would say maybe 20 or 30 acres. So just out of curiosity, and it has nothing to do with our decision tonight, but out of curiosity, I'd like to know about that facility and what kind of income the city is receiving off of that solar array. And because we have the land leased, and I think we're to share in the revenue off of that array. So I don't know if you're familiar with the site or not, but I'd like to have a little report that might help us in the future with some of the questions that are posed to us. But I drove by it this evening, and it's well maintained. It doesn't have a big fence around it. It just I guess a wire fence, but it does appear to be well maintained. I would like to have a report, Mr. Chairman.
Is that, Kevin, is that something you guys can look into and let us know, or?
What we can do for the commission is I can have Todd Versiglio, who handles all of our leases and lease agreements in our office. I'll have him look that up, find out how it's operating, whether there's been any complaints. I am familiar with a number of different sites, not just here in New Mexico, but in a couple of other states. Most of them are maintained very, very well. There's a significant investment in these, and plus the type of panels that are being used that track the sun, they're very mechanical. The last thing you want is weeds and other debris choking up the mechanical operation that would result in the panels themselves being unable to track the sun as the sun goes across the sky. As long as those panels are pointed at a 90-degree angle to the sun, generate a lot of electricity. But the minute they stop working, your utilization rate goes down pretty dramatically. So maintenance is an ongoing thing with these.
Mr. Chairman, may I also add, I agree with what Steve and Kevin are saying. Based on my experience, the solar array areas, they're very well maintained, and they're locked by the city, and with this conditional use permit, by us requesting an 8-foot solid fence, it's all going to be locked. And again, that's another reason why I support this project, just because it's a safer thing, especially with the school coming in across the street. It's gonna, in my opinion, lock the use of that property for 30, 35 years. And I'd rather have this than something more commercial or industrial, truly industrial in nature, with 24-hour traffic and impacts and infrastructure needs that would have to be supported by the city.
Thank you, Louis. Sure, come on up, state your name, please. And your address, please.
My name's Ernest Montoya. I'm right at 1601 East Alameda. My granddaughter, she's at 1415 East Alameda, and it's just across the fence. There's no 1500 block. Okay, talking about the drainage, what kind of system are they going to have to drain? Because right now, the draining system that they have on Alameda, if you go down there, you can go down there by canoe when you have a rainstorm like we did here. So, and I'm right behind the area that they're going to be. I mean, it's right there. I mean, I'm going to be behind there. What kind of effect is it going to have as far as the heat and the reflection? He said that those things will follow the sun. Well, the sun goes down on winter, and that thing is going to be right up there. So my concern is that I'd like to see what they really are going to do about that, because the drainage system right now is just very poor. So they got to drainage. one on the north side of Alameda and one on the south side, just right across the street. And the drainage is very, very poor. So if these people are gonna elevate their land, are they gonna have appropriate drainage? You know, so that's just my concern.
The applicant has been advised that this area does take a lot of drainage. Actually, he asked a two-part question. There will not be any improvements to the Alameda drainage because that's not the applicant's responsibility. His responsibility is to let the drainage cross and continue to move in a northeasterly direction as it does now. And that's when I advise the applicant that as it proceeds northeast, it has a tendency to flood the Needham property and also the mobile home park. So he's going to have to retain that and detain that at a lesser rate. So when it does hit the culverts and stuff on 380, that it minimizes the flooding. But it will not help the Alameda because that's not part of this project. But it will maintain the drainage, and we're aware of the consequences, especially on the Needham property, that as the water flows across this empty lot.
Thank you, Louis. Yes, ma'am? That's okay, but we're gonna wrap this up. Last comment.
Come to the mic if you want to talk. Come to the mic.
He stated that it flows to the northeast, the water, which is true, but we live there, and I'm telling you right now, it flows every direction. It's not just northeast. I have photos from 2 days ago. The water was up to here in my backyard, so it's a real problem.
Thank you.
My comment on the drainage would be that if nothing is done with this, the drainage problem is going to remain the same. If they do something with this property, they are going to be forced to do something about the drainage.
That's correct.
Now, say again? I don't think Lewis would let that happen, but that's not for me to
Yeah, they're
answer.
going to be required to do a drainage report with water coming
Are
in.
they going
and
to have
water
to have
coming
a
out.
retaining pond or something in part of this property?
The retaining pond would be, as you're looking at the parcel where the shadow is right now, and then going along to the west of the number 5 lot.
So, but put simply, the drainage is going to be better for the surrounding neighbors.
It'll be more controlled, and the applicant's aware that we're trying to keep it away from the mobile home park and the Needham property.
Okay, let's move on here, and I would accept a motion for, what case are we on? 2220, which would be the zone change for that little parcel on the south end. If I could have a motion, please.
Based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses, and the staff recommendation, I motion that we recommend case number 22-020 zone change.
Okay, we have a motion by Richard to approve the zone change for case number 22-020, and a second by Steve. We do have some considerations for the number of protests, so if we could have a roll call vote, please, Meredith?
Commissioner McDaniel?
Were you saying yay or nay to passing?
Yes.
Yay to passing.
Yay for
Yay.
Commissioner Aguilar?
Yay.
Commissioner Lassard?
Yay.
Commissioner McCornack?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson? Commissioner Story?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes, approved.
7 passed. 7 yeas.
Okay, can we do the next case, and then we will explain all that? Well, we have to have a motion for each one. So now I'd accept a motion for 22-021.
on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses and the regulations established in the zoning ordinance, as well as staff recommendations and testimony heard this evening, I motion that we approve the conditions for case number 22-021 CUP.
Second.
That you just? We have a motion by Richard and a second by Jesse to recommend approval of case number 22-021, a CUP. Could I have a roll call vote, please, Meredith?
Commissioner McCornack,
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson, Commissioner McDaniel,
Yay.
Chair Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilar,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lassard,
Yes.
7 yeas, 7 yeses.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. The case does pass, and yes, ma'am, where you appeal is, you need to appeal by, at least by Thursday at noon at the city clerk's office. Like I said before, I'm not really sure what all it entails. Kevin indicated it was a $100 fee. I don't know how complicated or what it takes to fill it out. Meredith, do you guys know if they can do that right then? Do they need to get in there early and take it home, or?
Actually, the city clerk is very good about walking people through. We've had a couple of protests recently that have been filed. The city clerk is very good about walking people through. They'll just show up at the city clerk's office. They'll walk them through the process.
But is it like a 10-minute, 5-minute process, 2-hour process, or?
I know people that have gone in, handwritten a letter out, paid the fee, and been out in 15 minutes.
Okay. So, any questions from you all back there? If you're going to appeal, it would be at the city clerk's office there in City Hall
By Thursday at noon.
by Thursday at noon. I would say you just need to appeal as one, because I would assume each appeal might cost you $100. I think you can each and every one of you can get up and speak at the city council meeting. So I'm just guessing here, Kevin. I would say just one person appeal, and then you show up in mass.
Sure, the city clerk could help answer that too when you go talk to them.
Yeah, but if they want to all be there.
Mr. Commissioner, we had an appeal very similar like this, and it was a property at Kentucky and Mescalero. And what it was, that homeowner association, just one person appealed and they all showed up.
They were all allowed to speak, or as many as they wanted to.
That's correct.
I think at city council, you also need to sign up to speak, so just make sure you do that.
Sign up to speak.
Okay, let's move on. We are to case 22-022, a zone change, and 023, a special use permit. This is all for the Alslips at 501 West McGaffey. Could I have a motion on the reading of finding of facts, please? We have a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations for 22022 and 22023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Meredith, are you going to present this case?
I shall, Chair Story, Commissioners. This is a request for both a zone change for part of the property under consideration, as well as a special use permit. The property under consideration for zone change is the north 3 lots of this whole property, and it's currently zoned R3, and the goal is to get it changed to C1, neighborhood commercial, so the zone changes from R3 to C1 for the northernmost part of the parcel, and you can see there's 6 lots involved, so it'd be the 3 north lots there. This is at the corner of McGaffey and Lee Avenue. The special use permit is for the purposes of developing a convenience store with fueling stations in the C1 zoning district, which requires a special use permit. Even though there is currently a convenience store with the fueling stations there now, the size of both the convenience store and the fueling stations will increase, the intensity of the use will increase, and that's why we brought it to Planning and Zoning Commission for a special use permit, as this site has never had a special use permit that I could find. The total site is approximately 1.61 acres, and it would have to undergo a summary plat to consolidate all those lots. The purpose is also to redevelop the site, so demolish everything that's there and redevelop it completely, so they'll have a nice new facility that works really more appropriately with the design, with a 5,630 square foot convenience store. So this is surrounded by residential neighborhood, although there's C2 commercial down the street on McGaffey. This land, this particular C1 zoning district and the adjacent 3 vacant lots to the north are surrounded by residential zoning. R3 primarily. And that should say C1, not C4 there. So this is the site. You can see the zoning, the R3, surrounded by residential R3 and R1, and the convenience store currently is zoned C1. So the zoning ordinance allows for convenience stores in the C1 with a special use permit if it has fueling stations. Okay. We're also put together special provisions for the special use permit, including a 6-foot tall decorative concrete or CMU wall on the west and north sides of the property, to remove all the freestanding signage on the property and apply for new signage that's compliant with the code. Outdoor lighting shall be 90 degrees downlit, full cutoff, shielded, and that includes the bulbs underneath the canopy. They need to be recessed. And the fire marshal has also reviewed the site and wants a designated red painted fire lane, designated no parking. Here's the summary plat to consolidate the lots.
Meredith, that house looks pretty close. Is that part of the lots? Will that house be removed, demolished and removed, or is that to the north?
That house is to the north. This is what the site currently looks like. This is a staff photo recently. And this is a staff photo looking at the site from the north to the south. And you can see it's vacant land. That's where the rezoning will occur, or the application for rezoning. So again, we have conditions or provisions for permits, for the solid waste director to work with them on the trash enclosure, which he has already approved the placement of, submit a fugitive dust control plan during construction. As to date, the Planning and Zoning Office has received 2 written protests and 0 inquiries. And I do have a letter that the gentleman was not able to be here tonight because he had to work, but he asked for me to read the letter. And it says, I, Jerry Romero, owner of the house on 1113 South Missouri, protest the request for the zone change for case 22-022 ZOC and 22-023 SUP. I disagree because our block of Missouri is a residential area, not commercial. We as tax-paying citizens deserve peace and quiet. We don't want to hear all that traffic 24 hours a day. Diesels pulling up at all hours of the night to fuel up, as well as cars pulling up. Our block is a quiet, peaceful area. That's why I purchased this home. Another reason is that it will attract a lot of people that do drugs and slam needles at my back gate. Imagine it being your grandchildren or children going to throw the trash and step on a used syringe that a heroin addict used. Believe me, if it was your backyard, you would agree with me. Our crime rate on our block would definitely increase. The expansion would attract a lot of homeless people and druggies around my house, and me and my children would not feel safe. I mean, come on, we all see these type of people hanging around back of Allsup's asking people for change and cigarettes. We have people on our block that work early in the morning and don't want to be kept all up by all that traffic as well. The store would attract criminals that want to rob the place because they are open 24 hours, and the robbers would be right at my back doorstep and yard. McGaffey is commercial for a reason, and Missouri is residential for a reason. The city of Roswell is not going to let me put a commercial mechanic shop in my backyard, would they? No, they would not. So why should they let Allsup's put commercial in a residential? Please, I urge you to be fair and considerate to the tax-paying residents of this Missouri block. I sincerely ask that you deny the zoning request. Jerry Romero. And yesterday evening at 6:21 p.m., I was, my email received this email, my email box from Julie Rogers. And it simply states, we do not want this to become a larger, louder commercial business so close to residential area. Please no. And that's for zoning case 22-022 ZOC. So item F7, case 22-022, based on land use and zoning considerations, finds the facts surrounding land use is compatible, adjacent zoning, and intended redevelopment described in 22-023, the SUP case. Staff recommends planning and zoning. Make a motion to approve zoning case 22-022, a zone change from R3 to C1. And item number F8, case 22-023, SUP, special use permit. Staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission make a motion to approve the zoning case 22-023, SUP to allow redevelopment of the site for a 5,630 square foot convenience store and new fueling station canopy on 1.61 acres in the C1 zoning district. I stand for questions.
Meredith, does it kick in the 2/3 majority or, with the protests?
No, it was really only the one property that made the deadline.
Okay. Any questions of Meredith?
And Pove Chin with Atwell, the engineering firm, is here in the audience.
We'll pull him up in just a minute. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case 22-022, 22-023? Please step forward if you're in favor of this case. I'm assuming that's you.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioner. My name is Pove Chin with Atwell, 6515 Wells Grove Cove, Memphis, Tennessee 38135. Just Meredith gave a good presentation on what we're planning on doing there. But we've been working with the staff rigorously, and we addressed most of the concerns that we have there. We're proposing a wooden fence, a 6-foot wooden fence on two sides, on the west and the north side of the of the lot that will shield us from the residential side, from the alleyway from the west, and also from the house to the north, which is where about 8 feet off of that property line. Also, we're provided and approved by the fire department the fire lane that we're proposing on Lee Street. And as for lighting, we submitted the lighting plans, and with the shielded lights and the recessed lights, that the foot candles of the light won't spill over the property line, especially with the walls there, with the fence there already. So I'm here to answer any questions in the engineering wise. We've got our grading plan. We have a small shallow detention in the rear, which dumps water into to Lee Street. And so I think we've addressed all the concerns that staff have on this property. If you have any questions, operational-wise, Mr. Green is here to answer any questions, if you may have.
Anybody have any questions? I have just one. Are you guys open 24/7?
Yes. And I would like to say, to answer Mr. Romero, the gentleman that protests against, we do not have diesel islands in this, so there's no semis or trucks to fill up on this. There's no separate diesel islands on this property.
Only trucks would be ones that are bringing fuel in.
Yes, sir, it's just tanker trucks.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, I'm certainly pleased to see your improvements that you're making, both here and out on West Second Street, and the community benefits from this type of improvement where you tear the old down and put it up new, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition of case 22022 or 023? In opposition to the case? Being none, I'd accept a motion on 22-022, the zone change, please.
Mr. Chairman, based on land use and zoning considerations, finding of facts surrounding land uses, regulations established by the zoning ordinance, staff comments, and the testimony this evening, I move we approve.
We have a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to approve case number 22-022, zone change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Can I have a motion for 22-023, please?
Chair Story?
Yes.
I didn't hear Jana. Commissioner Lassard?
I voted to approve.
Motion for 22-023, please.
Mr. Chairman, based on land use and zoning considerations, finding of fact surrounding land uses and established by the zoning ordinance, staff recommendation, move that we approve case 22023, issue.
Who was that? Saul? Saul, Richard? Richard. I have a motion by Steve and a second by Richard to approve case number 22-023, the SUP. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. I heard Jana that time. Okay, we're gonna move right along. Does anybody need a 5-minute break, or are we good? Just Spencer, you can if you want to. We'll carry on without you. How old are you? Yeah, you just wait. You got to go now, man. I was actually directing that kind of like at me and Steve, whether or not we needed We needed a break, you know?
Small bladder boys.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's Toby back there. You never know about him. All right, we're going to move on to the combination of case 9 and 10, 22024, the zone change, 22025, the preliminary plat for Second and Sycamore subdivision. Could I have a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts? Dang. Yeah. Have to go to bed is what I need. I have a motion by Jesse and a second by Saul to waive the reading of the finding of facts, land use and zoning considerations for case 22024 and 22025. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have Meredith to present both cases.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chair Story. We have two cases at the corner of Sycamore and West 2nd Street. The first case is a zone change request for the two properties along West 3rd Street and Sycamore, between Sycamore and Sequoia Avenue and the Stub Alley. That's 22-024 ZOC. The second case is a request for a preliminary plat for the 8 lots that will be consolidated in addition to vacation of alleys, additional right-of-way on Sequoia Avenue. That's zoning case 22-025 P plat, preliminary plat. The zone change is a request from R3 residential to C2 community commercial. And the P plat, the preliminary plat 025 is a request for the lot consolidations, the vacation of alleys, and additional right-of-way for Sequoia in order to redevelop the property with a new convenience store and fueling stations canopy. The surrounding land uses are primarily commercial and residential on the north of 3rd Street. So we've got commercial on the south, which is the primary part of the parcel, but then south of 2nd Street, you've got C4. On the west and on the east, you have auto sales, C2 lots. Here's the zoning map and the Chavez County assessor map. And you can see where the yellow star is on the zoning map, that you've got most of the lot that will be redeveloped, consolidated and then redeveloped, is zone C2 with a little bit of residential R3 on the top, just south of 3rd Street. North of 3rd Street is a few homes in there in the R3 zoning district. The outline on the Chavez County assessor map, the dashed line shows the entire redevelopment area, all those lots to be consolidated, alleys vacated, and widening of Sequoia Avenue there on the east. This map, this is a location map for the zone change, and that's in the hash pattern at the top of the whole lot. And the Google Earth aerial shows from 2019 what the site looks like or looked like in 2019, much of it being vacant. So the regulations that regulate procedures for plats are included in the subdivision ordinance 1510. Zoning ordinance article 30, C2 community commercial district allows convenience stores with fueling stations as a permitted use. So unlike the previous case we heard, this does not require a special use permit. It's allowed. And the comprehensive plan preferred land use scenario map indicates this area is a commercial corridor area. This slide shows a survey of all of those lots, the alleys, the rights of ways, all that stuff in there. And then the middle is the middle graphic is the final plat. And there's a view of the existing site from the south side of 2nd Street looking north at the site. So all of that will be demolished and redeveloped. The site plan is the graphic. The first graphic shows the site plan with a widening of Sequoia Avenue on the east. And then the second graphic shows drainage. So there will be a drainage pond has been proposed for the north along 3rd Street. So that will provide an additional buffer between the convenience store and the activity on that site and the houses just north of 3rd Street.
Meredith, does Sequoia not go through to 3rd?
Sequoia does go through to 3rd Street. It's kind of like an alley right now.
Right,
but
I know, but I mean, will it be developed and built with this and go through to 3rd Street?
It already goes through to 3rd Street.
I know what he's asking.
Yeah, it's not developed. There's no
yeah,
curb and gutters,
the idea
nothing.
is that, and again, I want to thank Allsups and Poe for, we've been working on this for, feels like almost a year. They're going to go ahead and build it to there. Hopefully, engineering can build the rest of it to 3rd Street. And then there'll be other discussion with, on 3rd Street in the future. But I just requested that, and I'll just speak now on some of the issues. The DOT and the city engineer were very concerned with the traffic in this intersection, because this also is very busy already. And then the parking that was there when it had the Chews and then the Allsups, we were very concerned in trying to get the access off of 2nd Street further back from the intersection. Thanks to Allsups, they have agreed that there will be no direct access to Allsups on 2nd Street. It'll all be either Sycamore or Sequoia. Thus, that's why Sequoia is so wide. I'm only requiring them to go to that point, and from that point, we'll readjust it with the city. But, you know, I support this project, the city engineer, because, again, just like the previous ones, the business is already there, the traffic's already there. Now they're going to open it up and make it bigger. I believe this is the same one that they will not have truck stop accommodations. They'll have a diesel, but for your passenger diesel, but it's not going to have truck islands. Been reviewed. It's taken us a long time to get this far, and I just say city engineer supports this project.
As of today's date, the Planning and Zoning Office has received 0 written protests and 0 inquiries for both cases. And item F9, case 22-024, staff recommends Planning and Zoning Commission make a motion to approve zoning case 22-024, zone change from R3 to C2. And item F10, staff recommends Planning and Zoning Commission make a motion to approve zoning case 22-025 for the preliminary plat. And just to let you know, they'll have to apply for a final plat as well, which will go to City Council for final approval.
Thank you, Meredith. Any questions of Meredith? Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Meredith. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of case 024 or 025? You're welcome to come up if you would like, sir. It's up to you.
Sir, I can answer any question you may have on this.
Give us your name and address again, please.
Pove Chin, 6515 Wells Grove Cove, Memphis, Tennessee, 38135.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? The engineer applicant on this project? You know, we've all seen it for so long. I think we're pretty familiar with everything and glad to hear everything's been worked out. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody wish to speak in opposition to this case? Would like to speak in favor? You're gonna have to get a little quicker there in your old age, buddy. If you come up and approach the podium.
Toby Gross. I live at 1316 Alicia Lane. I am in favor, but I would like to address one concern that I have. I have worked with the city engineer. I'm the developer of your neighbor next door of the property to the east of you. Hyundai, yes. And Louis and I have spent some time. I would like to see Sequoia. I have not been sworn in, by the way, but I swear to tell the truth.
Okay.
Okay. So I would like to see Sequoia be paved to 3rd Street. I have discussed that issue with Louis and my concern. There's a possibility we would even participate in that, but I think it should be paved going in to this project. It stops just short right now of that, and I don't think that's good for either of us. So if someone from Atwell also would like to visit with Mr. Nahar and I, then yes, he's our engineer as well. Yeah, we don't want to do anything right now, but we do want to see it paved to 3rd Street. Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Was that in favor or opposition? I'm a little.
in favor of his project. I already know what you have to go through to get to here. Trust me. But and I do appreciate all you guys do for the city of Roswell.
We appreciate that. All right, anybody wish to speak in favor? I guess I jumped the gun. Anybody in opposition? I'm gonna get the sergeant in arms, throw you out of here, buddy. Yeah, okay.
Where's the sergeant of arms?
Yeah, you. Okay, let's get on with this thing here. So now, I would accept a motion for case number 22-024, the zone change.
Land use and zoning considerations.
Hey, we got one down here. Go ahead, Saul.
Findings of facts surrounding land uses, the regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommendations, and testimony heard this evening. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of case 22-024 ZOC.
There we got a motion by Saul and a second by Richard to approve case number 22-024, the zone change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Jana's still awake. All those against, same sign. Motion passes. We move on to 22025, the preliminary plat.
Based on the land use and zoning considerations, finding of fact surrounding land uses and regulations established in the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance, and the testimony heard this evening, I move that we approve case 2205 plat.
Second.
We have a motion by Steve and a second by James to approve case number 22-025, the preliminary plat. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Jana. Hang in there, Jana. We just got one more. For y'all that don't know, Jana's working up in northern New Mexico. Now we have case number 22-026, and
I need to recuse myself.
Commissioner McDaniel has been recused, removing himself from the dais and sitting in the audience. See you guys. Okay, let's see here. This is our final case. It's a request, case 22026, special use permit for a dance studio. I'd like a motion, please, for waiting of the reading of finding of facts.
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Saul and a second by James to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations. With respect to 22-026, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes. Mr. Aiken, would you like to tell us about this case?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chair Story and Commissioners. So for the last public hearing item of tonight's meeting, we have zoning case 22-026 SUP, which is a special use permit to operate a dance studio, professional offices, and beauty salon spaces in the R3 zoning district at 1400 North Washington Avenue. So here we have the table that shows adjacent land uses. We have an R3 residential property to the north and the south, R3 residential properties to the west, and the Salvation Army and R3 residential properties to the east. So here you can see where the special use permit is being proposed in accordance to the assessor map and zoning ordinance. It's surrounded by R3. So the existing building, the place of worship, discontinued its operations at an undetermined date, sometime within the past 5 years. And staff believes that the proposed use, instead of remaining vacant, would be an improvement to the surrounding area. So the property owner and applicant has submitted a complete plan set for both phase 1 and phase 2, detailing the redevelopment of the existing building, which can be found in your packets. So phase 1 entails the conversion of the front part of the building, the 3,748 square foot area, into a dance studio, which will have 3 dance rooms. It'll have dressing rooms, restrooms, a reception and office area, a teacher's lounge, and some storage space. And then phase 2 entails a conversion of 3,698 square feet of the building, the back part of the building, into professional offices and beauty salon spaces. So pursuant to the city's zoning ordinance, an athletic club and gym, which would be phase 1, that 3,478 square feet, that would require a minimum of 17 parking stalls. And for a commercial business where, by the use, the phase 2 would be a commercial business, the remaining 3,698 square feet would require a minimum of 19 parking stalls, totaling 36. The current parking configuration exceeds that. I think it's like 45 spots or something, but they have enough parking. But because they have about 45 parking stalls, the city's zoning ordinance would actually require 1 more ADA parking stall to be striped. And this requirement has been included in the draft special provisions, which is Exhibit G in your packet. This has been communicated to the applicant, and they plan on redoing the parking lot anyway. They plan on doing another ADA spot, and they plan on doing diagonal spaces. Lastly, the fire marshal and I worked on determining the maximum occupancy because there are many different uses, and we determined it is 66 people. As of today's date, we have received no protests or inquiries regarding this case. Therefore, based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses, and the regulations established in the zoning ordinance and subdivision code, staff recommends approval of zoning case 22-026 SUP with the corresponding draft special provisions, Exhibit G, to grant a special use permit in order to operate a dance studio, professional offices, and beauty salon spaces in the R3 residential district at 1400 North Washington Avenue. And we stand for questions.
Thank you, Spencer. Anybody got any questions of Spencer? Thank you, Spencer. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of case 22-026? And like I remind you of the 3-minute. You have 3 minutes and no longer than that, once you state your name and address, please.
Jesse McDaniel, 2509 North Cambridge Avenue. You guys really want to hear me talk, or? So my wife has always wanted to convert an old church to the dance studio, or to a dance studio for herself. She's been teaching dance for over 12 years. Yeah, I was close. She currently is in the mall as of the last 7 years. Church came for sale. I bought it, and we have gotten this far. We've done all of our drawings, had an architect look at everything. I've met every requirement so far that I'm aware of. It's been a fun ride, I'll just say that. Everybody's been pretty awesome though to help. The back part of it, the front part of it is already well designed. If you guys look in your packets, the back part, that is an estimation on my part. Spencer asked me to have something drawn up to be an estimate. I may move some of that around a little bit depending on the sizes of the offices that are needed by who may be needing them. My other office building right here south of the parking lot, we have a therapist, a therapist, a physical therapist, massage therapist. My real estate office used to be there, in-home healthcare office. It's that types of businesses that we'll have. And I have had more calls for nail techs and salon type uses than anything else, because I guess the smell is a big problem. And so when they try to go in a building where there's multiple offices, it doesn't work. So the back the southwest corner, the whole corner will be divided completely off and separated totally. That'll be 4 or 5 rooms just for nail tech, hair tech. That way they can all share the same space. So I stand for any questions.
Any questions of the applicant?
I've got a request. I thought maybe Jesse could show us a few moves in the dance area.
I'm just the silent business partner. I just sit back. So we did actually meet in dance class though a long time ago. So, but I'll leave it at that.
I was gonna kind of request just the opposite. You know, it didn't really seem. Okay, anybody else? Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? John, do you want to get up? You sat there for 4 hours and you're not going to say anything? I think you owe her dinner when you get out of here. Okay, anybody wishing to speak against case 22-026? Being nobody's in the audience, I would assume that's a no. I would accept a motion for 22-026.
Based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses, and the regulations established in the zoning ordinance, including staff recommendations and testimony heard this evening, I motion that case 22-026 SUP be approved.
We have a motion by Richard and a second by Saul to approve case number 22-026. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Sorry, Jana. Jana voted in the yes. All those opposed, same sign is none. The motion passes. You have a dance studio. Okay. Other business. We have any other business? Jess, you want to come back up? And don't forget your glasses. Anybody, we have any other business that needs to come up, guys? Oh my gosh. We got all these pictures. Could you put some pictures up there of maybe somebody besides Spencer? That's kind of scary. All right, no other business. Nobody's public out there. Any announcements?
Real quick, we put that, I actually suggested, because we are doing so many of these cases now, and the volume of material that we have to send out, it really, and we've had a handful of people, of course, come up over the past few months saying they didn't receive that, so we just threw that up there just to give you an idea of how many letters we send out every single month. 350. Just this, 359 this month alone? 350. It's an ongoing challenge to keep up. It looks like next month we We may get a little bit of a reprieve. I think we only have 2 or 3 items currently scheduled. But as you're starting to see, none of the items coming forward are clean. We have interface issues where we have new development coming up against existing development. We have issues with the adaptive reuse. We have redevelopment, revitalization, and then on top of everything else, staff is going to most likely start working on a pretty significant revision to the zoning and development code, at which point we hope to bring that to you guys for your review and be able to take into account some of the overall changes that have been made in the last 10 or 15 years in the way development is done, especially in a post-COVID world. Things are changing pretty radically and rapidly.
You guys going to be hiring another person to help?
I have put in a request. Obviously, we're still in the middle of budget season, but my budget for the community development department does include a request for an additional 4 additional staff members as well. Actually, 1 in planning and zoning, 1 in code enforcement, 1 in the building department, and then another design development type of individual that can help us with many of these issues that are coming along. We're doing our best to work as closely as we can with engineering and Lewis's department, but they are. It's tough to even get to see Lewis at all these days. He is so doggone busy and shorthanded.
Yep.
So bringing someone in that can at least screen some of this stuff before we have to take it up to Lewis and Lewis give it his blessing. So work on all that.
Okay. Anything else?
We break the record tonight?
I don't think so. It's 8:51 and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jana.
Okay, let's start a fire now.
Hey, that's something that we could possibly help with is like this stuff. Kevin, you guys,
Halftime and have naps.